All right, Harrisburg mayoral candidate Louis Butts, thanks for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
What we've been doing is we've been giving candidates the option of making a brief opening statement or just diving straight into questions. Do you have a preference?
I would like to make an opening statement. That
Go right
would be
ahead.
nice. My name is Louis L. Butts. I'm 50 years old, and I have a plan to help regenerate an interest, regenerate investment, regenerate hope back in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania as the capital city. By having a priority on real infrastructure, superstructure, will incite new arrivals into our city as well as keep the ones that we have. These super infrastructures will provide jobs, not just for the short time, but for the long term. That makes retirement, healthcare, and seeing your families develop and grow into strong, viable citizens. That's what this thing provides. That's what the Harrisburg plan provides. I want to have a legacy also. And the legacy that I leave as Harrisburg's mayor is a legacy of prosperity and intellect. Being able to bring companies, innovative companies, into our city, you must have a base, a framework that these companies can prosper in. They just can't come here and exist. They have to have a framework. They have to have an infrastructure to produce the products in which they want to produce. Things like autonomous vehicles is the superstructure that I'm trying to lay out. A rail system, live medium where fish and other animals can prosper and live and be maintained, so that our education system can have other tools of education. Teachers just can't I don't rely just on teachers to educate the children. They have to be tools, educational tools that help teachers teach. I can't put the blame on teachers. I have to put the blame on an administration that doesn't have a plan compared to my plan. That's why I'm running for mayor.
Cool. Christine, you want to try question one?
Sure. We talked last night about the top 3 issues, what each candidate thought, and I think you were the only one out of 5 that did not mention crime as among your top 3. Can you talk more about that?
Well, crime is the result of several social issues. Blackness produces crime. Unsatisfactory quality of life produces crime. An unhealthy environment produces crime. An inability to have a prosperous job creates crime. Someone who isn't heard or feels frustrated that they're not heard creates crime. I feel as though crime is based on things that are preventable. If we have great jobs in the city, if we have homes that are everyone is working and everyone is participating in the quality of life for that family and for the city, crime will be lessened. If we reduce the stressors of life, for example, if we have an infrastructure that eliminates your PP&L bill and it eliminates your Comcast bill, that would make you a little happier. The stressors of daily life would decrease. That reduces crime when the stressors of your environment changes. Jobs. If we have high-paying jobs, that reduces the crime. Right now, if we could produce over 2,500 jobs, close to 3,000 jobs, unemployment wouldn't exist in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, for the city itself. That's my job. My job is to make enough jobs available to reduce the unemployment, which would in turn reduce the crime. If we had things to increase our ability to say we have good education, our children are learning properly. They're understanding about responsibility. They're understanding about respect. Civics. If we focus in on civics, for example, the police and fire academy in a high school, that solves a multitude of different cancers within our society. It reduces the resistance between the citizen and the cop because they come out of our own community in which they know who's the more troubled individuals in society, in our community. They know what the hot spots and the hot items that are based in as crime within the Harrisburg area. They would grow up in it and they would know it. Our community would have officer friendly again. Many years ago, we had officer friendly. That was a good word. That was a buzz title. Now we can go back to being officer friendly if it's in our high school, and so they can relate. If there's 42% minority as the demographic in the city, there should be 42% in our service departments, in the police department, as well as in the fire department. This would bring our culturally competence to a point where people understand that seeing 5 African Americans walking down the street isn't a red flag. And there has been times where we had regional cops as well as cops from Derry Township patrol our streets, and they really don't understand the type of Hershey Cocoa Avenue is different than 6th Street, Harrisburg, and I wouldn't imagine them understanding that because there's a lot of different environments, there's a lot of different triggers that go on in both. There's 2 different environments. But what Hershey has that we would love is a program like Milton Hershey has in their, as a Milton Hershey Institute. We need to take that same playbook and bring it to Harrisburg for our high-risk children. That would also reduce the crime, using things from our communities out, and if they're good. There's nothing wrong with the Milton Hershey playbook, I promise you. There's nothing wrong with that playbook. If we put it, we have the state hospital grounds right now that are not being used. We can use the state hospital grounds as an institute for kids with high risk. Then we have the State Farm Show. The State Farm Show is not being used 63% of the year. As a Harrisburg resident, we can use that state hospital for a curriculum in equestrian sports, agriculture, the things that make our top priority in our state as our state industry. Our number 1 industry in Pennsylvania is agriculture. Why aren't we plowing something? Right now, if you go across our lands, our countryside, you're seeing the farmers tilling. You smell the manure. I promise you smell the manure. But our city is sort of out of touch because we don't go through several of those processes that make us Pennsylvanians, that make us industrial, make us closer to the land. I want to bring a curriculum that brings us back to our ground roots, to see how our industry rides. We're Mennonite, our culture is Mennonite, Amish, Quaker. We need to bring some of those characteristics into the fold in our inner cities so that they know nature is not that far away. We have McCormick's Island. One of my projects is McCormick's Island. If we do our history in the 1940s and 50s, it was a cash crop. The land hasn't changed. It's rich soil. The objective is to open it up, clear it, and make a cash crop so we can produce fruits and vegetables to markets in Uptown instead of just Broad Street. But there needs to be a market uptown. There needs to be a market on the south side of Harrisburg. We need to look at our essentials to make us healthier people. We need to look at the health of the river. The river produces and can produce energy endlessly. We must harness our river because right now the water is going over the dam.
All right. I think we've gotten fairly far afield
So
from Christine's original question.
I'm sorry, I went to PCN earlier today,
Yes.
and I just went on and on and on and on and
That's,
on.
we're talking about, a bit about crime, and you raised some genuinely good points about the Citizens Police Academy, or rather the police academy in the high schools and community policing. Harrisburg largely has been spared some of the strains and relationships between police and the community, but we do know even still that even with a drop in crime, people do still feel unsafe.
Disenfranchised.
Right, so how would you, as mayor, as head of the police department, sort of work to restore those relationships and work to restore that trust?
Well, I feel by providing lighting, good high-tech lighting, and a communication base that communities can unite and get involved in, with applications to our, again, the Wi-Fi unit system, you can actually communicate better. Our mapping systems could be a lot more high-tech, to where when you report a crime, you can go not only anonymously, but you can help the cops pinpoint where the crime is being perpetrated. So moving into the future, moving into the next decades, technology is going to lead the solutions to crime. And if we provide the framework, the base platform for the future for our citizens and our children, they're going to take it forward. But it's up to us to lay the groundwork so that they have accessibility and have that ability to spring forward and save us from a complacent and a life of Act 47 and other things. We must move forward. We must move forward.
I heard you last night mention the citywide Wi-Fi system. I heard you mention the hydro dam at the base of the river. Who's going to pay for that?
Well, Voice Hydro in New York. I don't know if you know of Voice Hydro. They're the best in the world, and they were shocked when I went to them and wanted to build a relationship between Harrisburg and Voice Hydro. They came out with a new generator just within the last year and a half, and Harrisburg is ideal to present this new technology to the world. So when I offered, what is it? They said it's the new Dream Driver, and they would put a presentation use Harrisburg as a presentation for hydropower. Basically, Harris would be a poster child for hydropower and the new technologies of hydropower by Voice. They would do it as a presentation project to display their new low-head dam turbines. Beautiful, brilliant. I was floored. They said it's the best in the world, and I know, and it's an opportunity for us and Voice to work on a regional project that brings jobs regionally. Pensy Supply, Voice Hydro, Pensy Supply, we can do it all within 2 counties. And this would be a project, seventh wonder of the world. And it would help sustain our city of 49,000 forever and for always. That's the key. The river never stops running. It beats fracking. It beats solar because the sun goes down. It beats wind because the wind dies. Our river is the most stable natural resource we have, and it's our responsibility to manage the river properly by keeping it clean and using it to benefit ourselves In the past there have been mayors that wanted to harness the Susquehanna River but never had the opportunity. I want this to be my legacy. I want this to be Louis Butts' legacy to leave for the generations to come, to know that at one time we did rely on PP&L for power. Unimaginable. To a point of unimaginable. That type of sustainability. And we can do it this round. It's this smart round and make one of the smartest cities in the world. Bring innovation. They were talking about a new Silicon Valley. Well, this Happy Valley, Harrisburg could be Silicon Valley, the new of the East. Short, sweet, quaint Harrisburg. We can pull it off. It should just take everybody to realize that tomorrow is now.
So going back to Voith Hydro, so you've talked with them, and they're very interested in doing some big project in Harrisburg.
They were floored that I even came to them. They said, "We've been waiting for you. We're shocked that it took you guys so long to get here. Where have you been? We are the brains." You know, they are the brains of the world. They bring power to China. If you do your research on Voith Hydro, they bring power to China. It's amazing. It's flabbergasting what they can do. They said they were going to do it as a presentation project. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania will be a poster child of the new technology of the future. And it's ironic that they're right next door, less than 20 minutes away. It's just an irony. And they can, and they're the best. And they're not number 2 in the world. They're not number 2. They're number 1. Their hydro department is 20 minutes away. It's a flabbergasting. There's an order to stuff. There's an order to stuff. Mm-hmm. My education points me towards turbines, points me towards environmental resources, and I know this stuff because I study it. I've studied it. I understand Pennsylvania's natural resource. I know that hydropower is underused in Pennsylvania. I know this. But it's us as the capital city to make that example that it can be done. So don't shrug technology. Don't shrug an assurance. If we have the hydro dam in, then we could work on bonds. Bonds that could be created, and we would actually have a Harrisburg Power and Light. Right now, revenue, the incinerator was our revenue. The incinerator was our parking was our revenue. Events in which we don't have as much anymore, they were our revenue. We have to look more than just raising the taxes on our.
And all this is quite some ways down the road. The more immediate and pressing need is what happens when the city emerges from Act 47. You're elected mayor, for the sake of argument. What's the first thing you do to help guide the city out of Act 47? Mayor Pepin-Fisselson today was talking about a 3-year extension, working toward home rule in that time to give the city greater control over its destiny. What are your Mayor Butts, first day on the job, first steps toward guiding the city out of Act 47? My
first initiative is to have a survey done that counts our heads. If you're an illegal alien and you register, I can cover you. I want to know who are we? I want to know who are we, what's our problems, and bring attention to the person so they know that we're thinking about them. That's our first resource. Our first resource is to make sure everybody's on the same page. If you're a homeless person, you will be counted. There will be a service person. There will be a nurse catering to you. That is my first act, is to create a database of all the residents. So when they ask how many illegals you have, I can say, here's how many I have, and I'm responsible for them. Number 2, that's the first, is to make sure everyone knows that the plan is for them. They are a piece of the puzzle. That's my first initiative. And that might take me approximately maybe 4 or 5 months to shake everybody's hand, to sit everybody down and look at their situation and draw contact, person to person, hand engagement, to see where you're at. You know, what do you need? How do you see it? That is the first thing, is to gain contact with the people within your village. If you're out of touch, you're out of touch. If you're not, you're not. It's just as simple as that. And I feel engagement with my constituency is vital. And I think that's one of my greatest attributes, is my ability to be logical and reasonable and be personable and be a friend, more than a friend, but a relative. Be relative. You know, what is relative? What makes us relative? What makes us relative is, why can't Harrisburg have a newspaper? Why can't Harrisburg have media? That's what makes us relative. We want the same things. We want the same things. We want free speech. We want children to grow up with an ability to get their point across in a civilized manner. We want civics.
Louis, did you grow up in Harrisburg?
I was born and raised.
So you already know the problems, right?
I was a
So
I
why
was
would you
a
need a
problem.
survey?
We have different. When I was growing, we didn't have as many different cultures, as many dialects. In Ben Franklin right now, there's 20 different languages. When I was going to Ben Franklin, there were 2 languages, maybe 3 languages. But now in Ben Franklin, there's 20 different languages. I would miss something. I would miss something if I didn't go back over who's the body.
Okay.
It's not just white or black or Asian. There's all kinds of people, and you have to make sure that they have an opportunity to be noticed. That's vital. It's just vital, and I think when we stem out of that, we can build a social network of people of the same likenesses. Like if you're a nurse, or you want to become a nurse, or you're a retired nurse, I will put you together. If you're an accountant, you want to be an accountant, or you're a retired accountant, I will put them together. And it builds a base of professionalism within the city. If you want to be a fireman, whatever, you'll have your own group. So when the city needs something, we can go to that group.
When you're out campaigning, what do you hear from people out on the street, people that you knock on doors and talk to? What are their big concerns? Last night we heard it was housing, crime, and people kept mentioning trash too.
No,
in not any order, but
this parking thing is decimating the moral of the people. They can't go downtown to pay bills. It's killing them. The business side. I mean, I'm everywhere. Downtown is our parking scenario is pulling our plug, literally pulling the plug on downtown Harrisburg. Southside Harrisburg, it was the 13th Street incident, but 13th Street wants a community center. They don't have it. There's a lot of kids that want to do gymnastics on the south side of Harrisburg. Weird. All these little kids they want to do some gymnastics. There's a field, and I would propose to have a place, where they can do that stuff, the things that they like.
All right, so you're mere butts. We acknowledge that there's a repressive parking system. How do you fix it? What do you do?
Well, for the resident itself, I would build a parking garage just for residents alone. A parking garage, and with the Wi-Fi, you can schedule a time, and you'll know exactly where you're to park, and you'll make it easier for for the resident. And that is the point of the matter. Make it easier for the resident.
And I'm sorry, and I may have missed this, but you would pay for both the Wi-Fi and the garage. How?
Well, the Wi-Fi is an infrastructure piece, just like the hydro dam is an infrastructure. The Wi-Fi is a infrastructure piece in which, for smart cities, we can get grant money. We can work with Google. You have to partner with different companies that have your like interests. Google, they're looking for smart cities. The federal government is looking for ways. We're in Act 47. If we set forth a plan to put us ahead of the 8 ball, I'm sure we can get support from the state and the federal government to establish this thing for the future. E-commerce is another way that we can also use that infrastructure piece. Business, promoting more business, more companies to come in, our own residents opening up new businesses using e-commerce. The dynamic with that element, the dynamic of the city will change. We can erect red light cameras that also produce revenue. Now, people can think out of the box then. People can venture and look at the way of thinking will change. Instead of a complacent, monotone, grayish outlook on life, a brighter, open, here to listen, here to engage, evolutionary process that will go on with the caring about you, and it will have accessibility to things that you didn't have access to, and the opportunity that you didn't think you had before. Saving the resident money, putting things that save them, keep the taxes fixed, but increase the amenities of life. That's what it's all about. Do you want somebody that isolates, segments, instead of a person that brings out a platform of inclusiveness and bringing a level playing field so people can have opportunities to compete? I want our children to be able to compete. Now, that means with the Wi-Fi infrastructure, they can go to school year-round and catch up and fight some of these stigmas that, they're faced with or they think they're faced with. A lot of stuff that goes on. And as an adult, you got to look at how you can bridge the gap. I'm 50 years old. I look at how I can bridge the gap between the 99-year-old, which is my grandfather, and my son, which is 9 months. And you got to bridge the gap. You got to make it work. There are 18-year-old kids, 17-year-old kids saying, "Oh, that old lady don't know nothing. Oh, that man don't have nothing to contribute." On the other side, the other side, that kid don't know how to daggone blow his own nose or walk. I've been there, done it. So you got to bridge the gap, and by having groups, cells in which the different generations can talk over commonalities, and then counting. There are some things that are consistent throughout the age. And those commonalities are what builds trust and what builds a community. We're a village. I belong to 2 largest families in Harrisburg. We are a village. And we have to act accordingly. You have to act according to your size. And as a third-class city, right? We're a third class. We should be able to take care of our people. We should be able to do it. And we have, and we've taken care of others. And that was proven throughout time. Harrisburg has been accommodating for the Civil War. We accommodated over 600,000 troops in Camp Curtin. We did it, we've done it, and we will do it again.
All right, so putting aside the infrastructure peg that you've come to repeatedly, I wonder what specific economic development tools or strategies you'd embrace to bring businesses, to encourage businesses to locate in the city?
Oh.
Because, I mean, the city is landlocked, it can't expand, so you have to build on what's here. Apart from the Wi-Fi, apart from the dam, what specific economic development initiatives or tools would you employ to expand the tax base?
Yeah, because last night you mentioned Google and I think it was Facebook or something, bringing big name tech companies in.
Tesla, they're looking.
How are you going to do that?
How?
Let me go one notch down. For example, we have, PennDOT. PennDOT is what we call an engine. Everybody goes to PennDOT. Everybody has to go to PennDOT. Right now, there's vacant land to the left of PennDOT, and there's vacant land to the right of PennDOT. If we create a PennDOT Plaza, PennDOT's a state building. There's several other state buildings. If we create a PennDOT Plaza where there's 30 stores, a riverfront property of 30 stores that creates like 600 jobs. Those people, the people who reside in the Hall Manor, can walk down to those jobs, build their credit, get a house in Harrisburg. That is what an idea is to build an economic engine, is using something that exists. And since it's a must, you would love to do something more than just go to PennDOT. Everybody does. You want to go somewhere to eat? You have a grocery store there. You have H&M. You have high-end stores. You have the beautiful river. You have food. You have the Chinese. You have hibachi. You have all these different stores like an outlet in Hershey. But it's called PennDOT Plaza, and as you cross the bridge, you can see PennDOT over to the right, and then you can see all this stuff that is going on in PennDOT. It's in a floodplain, so you build it up and have the parking underneath. But it would be one of the best things that people would come. It's an outlet. When you cross over that bridge, how many people go across the bridge today? It's a lot. It's a lot. When they look over to the right and they see and they are attracted to what is going on, they would veer off and they would spend that money. That is what I'm talking about. It has to be a strategy. There's technology. There's traffic issues. I mean, this is a draw. PennDOT is a draw. You make it a big sign and you bring dollars in, but make sure that the people in the South End, that's the engine of South Harrisburg. So you make sure they prosper the most from the structure.
Somebody has to build that. It will not erect itself. I mean, so you have to offer some kind of incentive, tax breaks, something to get people to build this thing that you're talking about. What do you do? How do you do it?
Well, you go to some of your companies, like Pennsy Supply, which is right there. You go to them and you say, like my great-grandfather was actually the first black that retired from Pennsy Supply. He died at 110. Pennsy Supply is going to be around. Pennsy Supply is one of our resources, concrete. We do concrete, and in Harrisburg we can melt metal, we can mold steel, we can do everything within being landlocked. One thing about Harrisburg, our industrial capabilities, we can do everything in Harrisburg. So we garner those companies that live in Harrisburg to help rebuild Harrisburg. So they have a commitment in the stakeholder of the city. Harrisburg has everything. We have every state department. If we become landlocked, if we shut Harrisburg down with the hydropower, with the infrastructure that I'm setting up, we can still maintain and sustain ourselves. That's what it's all about. Maintaining and sustaining. Our budget is $71 million. If the dam produces $200 million just off the river running, and we conduct different events like Motor Week, which is a brilliant idea, that brings the international stage to Harrisburg for that week. It's about events. And some of the events take a lot of setting up, and other events don't take as much. So you have them, and you keep the interest, and you keep it viable, and you keep it refreshing, and you keep it spunkified. I don't know if that's a word, but don't.
We know what you mean.
You know, you.
Now, you can't do this all by yourself. Have you thought about who you're going to put in your administration? And would you share some of that with us?
The administration right now, I'm looking at the cabinet. I'm looking at the people that are running now and see what kind of ideas that they have. I told everyone who's running with me, you're going with me, because they are the leaders of our community, and I don't want to ostracize or put the image that it's me against them, or because we're one body. I just come with a plan for sustainability. The others don't, and that's why I'm running. They would be of my first selection because their heart and their courage is where it needs to be. Right now, we have people in our administration that don't necessarily come from Harrisburg, are invested in Harrisburg, and don't really care about the people of Harrisburg, and that's where we get a lot of disconnect. It's because the administration, they don't support people living in. It's hard for a person in Harrisburg to get a job in Harrisburg. That's what I've been hearing. The contractors, the construction companies that are in Harrisburg, they don't get the contracts. I want to change that around. If there's jobs that we're working on, we're going to fill the coffers of our resident contracting companies, minority contractors first. So then that will propagate more companies coming here and doing work for Harrisburg. We have no tradesmen schools. William Penn is shut down. When I was growing up, William Penn was a trade school. I want to bring back the trade so we can empower the people that are in Harrisburg to work on our own property statuses. That's the key. Empowering ourselves, funneling our resources back to us, keeping our resources looped and our revenue looping back within the community, and not letting it get out the bucket, or the sand get out the sand.
What will not change, though, is you still have a vast proportion of property in the city that's off the tax rolls because they're state-owned buildings. Would you look for a greater contribution from the Commonwealth?
Well, the state, you have to lobby for stuff. That we have our advantage is that we have the state here. What our inability to communicate with the state or lobby for what we need is the responsibility of our leaders that are elected. If they don't understand that lobbying is one of the responsibilities of the mayor, is to make sure Reed taught me that you have to be the best lobbyist in the city. The mayor of Harrisburg has to be the best lobbyist for the city. Yeah, I went to the Trump rally. You know who took my Harrisburg first plan? Sue Helms. Sue Helms knows my family because I've been around. And she knows me. She said, I'm going to pass your Harrisburg first plan because I have a relationship with Sue Helms. She's Republican. Doesn't matter. It's where we're going, and it's our village. It's our village, and it doesn't matter. If it's smart, it's smart. If it's not, it's not. If it makes sense, it makes sense.
I just want to rephrase the question. Do you or do you not believe the state should contribute more to the city to make up for the property that's tax exempt?
Yeah, I do believe that the state should make sure that Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, has the infrastructure to be sustainable. If we need a hydro dam, and if it's sensible, and if it's going to reap benefits for the long haul, that'll keep us out of Act 47. And you'll get your money back because the river never stops.
And are you a yes or a no on home rule?
I'm all the way no on home rule. I haven't done a lot of research about it, but I'm sure with the infrastructure we can get out of Act 47. You just got to be a little bullish. You got to be bullish on the ideas and events on how to bring revenue in. Instead of, I hear from the other candidates, there's like maybe 2 or 3 different ways they want to bring in revenue. There's more ways to create revenue. Think out the box. You got to think out the box. Taxing the people should not be the number one source of collecting revenue for an administration, for a municipality. Get alive a little bit. Use tourism. You gotta bring something. You gotta bring something to the table other than raising taxes on and our property values. That's not it. That you're not thinking about outside the box when that's your number one go-to revenue producers. That's just not it.
Speaking of revenue issues, I'm wondering what you thought of the final outcome on the incinerator mess, and if you felt that the report was thorough enough, or that people were not held into account, or just what your view was on that.
That debacle, it hardens my heart that to see Lancaster having a piece of Harrisburg, of a large slice of Harrisburg, but I can't think about that too much when I'm thinking so much on how, we get another revenue stream, we get another consistent revenue source, because those have all been liquidated. They've been liquidated. So we have to make something new to supersede what's happening right now.
Did you agree or disagree with Shapiro's decision not to pursue charges?
Charges or not, doesn't really matter. If they get charges, okay, fine and dandy. It might help us. But if they don't, we're still where we're at. You still have to think about the now and about where we're going in the future. What happened in the past, it could help you or hurt you. So you gotta go with, and putting a lot of energy on things of the past. It sort of slows you down, because there are so many other people that are relying on you to have the energy and the foresight for the future. It's taxing to go so far back and think about so far ahead.
We know that home sales are up in the city. Mayor shared some stats with us today. The one thing we didn't get a chance to ask, and I wish I would have, is your plan to encourage home ownership, to make the case that people should move back into the city, that younger people should move back into the city. What incentives can you offer them? What tools can you employ to make them move back?
Well, people move to places when everybody's happy. The residents are happy. So if you make the residents that exist now, that are here now, if you make them, if they have a quality of life, more people will come, because word of mouth will get around. But the objective is to take care of what you have. If you're not taking care of the people that you have, you can't give people an incentive to move here, because they'll say no way. They'll ask somebody else that lives here, and they say, no, the parking is atrocious. Oh my goodness, our taxes, they want to raise our taxes. We can't get a job here. Our kids' school, the kids at the school are schooling or the bottom of the barrel nationwide. Then what do you say? I can't give somebody an incentive to something that the result right now is high crime. People are afraid to move to Harrisburg. People are afraid of the crime. 3rd Street, just the other day, someone got killed right there on 3rd Street. And it's supposed to be it's supposed to be a crime-ridden, free of crime crime is supposed to be down. Then again, there's the middle of the day, you know, the most craziest murder. So you know, I don't believe a lot of stuff right now. I don't believe a lot of the numbers because I'm out there and I see there's more fires and I see blocks burned down. I'm seeing blocks burned down weekly. I don't believe a lot of stuff because the people don't believe a lot of stuff. There are murders and people don't care about the families. You know, the administration has to care. You have to have the conscience to care about the people first. And then people will take a little bit more risk. But if you don't care, over and over, vote over and vote, the proof comes, and then you still don't care, you have to take care of the people first. You have to make the schools are safe, and the schools have curriculum that is challenging and allows the child to be competitive against the other school districts in the area. It's about competition. Harrisburg is a brand, and we have to compete. It's about competition. Harrisburg is capital. We should have the best politicians coming out of Harrisburg. We should have the best democratic establishment here in Harrisburg. Bring civics back. I mean, these things, the children are eager to learn how to make a bill of law. When I was small, I learned how to make a bill of law. By the time I was 12, it's vital. It enables you to communicate. It enables you to have a platform. It enables you to have a good argument, a valid argument, a valid case. State your case. And it can be changed. We're a commonwealth. Things change. We can make things change. If you lobby for it, if you work hard, if you state your case, and if it's a valid, feasible case, it can move on. That's how you do it. And that's how it needs to be taught in our schools, that we're civilized and we do things a certain way, and there's a standard.
As mayor, you have no direct oversight of the schools. So how do you press that case to the school district?
Well, you give them a plan, and you also have an infrastructure that complements the plan. For example, you erect I'm going to use an aquarium again.
Mm-hmm.
That STEMs, that's a tool that they see that it's an economic engine also, and it's good for schooling. That's how you give the school district something to use, something smart to use, and then they'll say, well, how are we going to use it? If you want to, well, you should know how to use an aquarium if you're a teacher. You should know how to use it, but it gives the child an opportunity to go and visit on the day off and get more involved in a scientific dialect, a communication that may be different than at home or in school, but outside the box. Those children will rise. They will rise. They will come and they would engage, and they will be good children. But you gotta have something. They're children. They can't do it for themselves. You gotta provide for them. You gotta provide everything for them. And when you have a responsibility and you know you have to do that, your mind changes. As a responsible American man, you stand up and say, here's where we're at. Let's just change a little thing. Let's go for it a little bit. Let's put some energy to the right here. Don't worry about all that mud, okay? Let's turn the ship a little bit. Let's put some energy towards bringing events. Why not several casino boats? It's worth lobbying for.
Yeah, I've asked the other candidates about what their big visionary ideas are, like what, pie in the sky or whatever you want to call them. But I have to say, you're already out there with a lot of big thinking concepts. Are there any that we've missed that you have?
Oh, I've got loads of. I've got 69. I'm gonna give you a copy of the Harrisburg First Plan. It's 69 home run hitters that why didn't I think of it type stuff, all right? And that it's supposed to encourage people to add to the plan. It's supposed to be a living document that if you're interested, you say, whoa, I want to get behind this, and you run with it, and you build that coalition of people to make it happen. Take another. You might be interested in an equestrian sports program. Throw yourself in it. If that's what encourages you, is that what empowers you to get some energy that you want to get up the next day and do something, because you have the ability to make that change. I'm just putting forth a plan that people can see. It's nice for our city. The things that I mentioned, like for example, the Wildwood Lake dredging. That's an infrastructure. There's a reason why they built Wildwood Lake. They built Wildwood Lake to retain the water so it wouldn't flood on Cameron Street. But since the Susquehanna Township did all that redevelopment, the silt came out from Susquehanna Township, Paxton Creek, and went into Wildwood Lake and silted it up. So now it's not holding water. It's just letting water run off down to Paxton Creek. We have to re-dredge. We have to re-dredge Wildwood, and the sediment from Wildwood we can dry out and bag up. So then the project itself, it creates its own revenue and pays for itself. And that means less flooding would happen down on Cameron Street when flooding occurs. So it's basically redoing our infrastructure again. It's a failing infrastructure. We can sue or push the cost of Susquehanna Township for the sediment. We could do that, but it wouldn't be necessary because it'll make the money for itself. We'll have to propagate the lily pads that we said we're saving, and we're cutting ourselves in the foot. So we could propagate those things. We can propagate them. It could be part of the Milton Hershey, the Harrisburg Education Institute right there. That can help in the propagation of that thing if it's agricultural. But it needs to be dredged as an infrastructure piece. That's what I'm talking about. We can clean up Paxton Creek, make shops. We have lots of rails to trail programs that we can offer down by PennDOT. They will love a nice little rails to trail. There's a green belt that needs to be beautified down there. That's jobs. That's jobs for residents. But why would they give the jobs to someone else for beautification? I'm talking about beautiful. I'm not talking about, garbage. I'm talking about beautification and employing people for beautification. So the end result is, oh, that looks nice.
I have one more question here for you from someone. They wanted to know what you were doing at the Donald Trump rally. They wanted to know what you were interested in.
Oh, Donald Trump has a America First program.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
His plan is America First, and it's very important for municipalities, state, federal government to see the forest for the trees, meaning to see that there are some good things that the president's initiatives want to bring. Maybe some things that are a little off, but for the infrastructure and building jobs and bring America first, it's the same basic thing. We gotta make Harrisburg first again, and to make America first, you gotta look at Harrisburg, because Harrisburg is a vital cog in the history of of America. We're a vital cog. We've always been a vital cog. We're the capital city. We're the keystone state in politics. Pennsylvania is always, when it comes to an election, vital. If you don't have Pennsylvania, you may not win. The Democrat, the type of politician I am, was forged. I was forged by being surrounded by Republicans, being surrounded by people that may not look like me or might not have my same idea or perspective. But it's vital that my dialect. You see what type what type of dialect I have, where my heritage lies, to see that I'm a slice of the pie. I'm a Central Pennsylvanian, and it comes with my dialect and my concern. I know that Harrisburg won the Civil War. I know that we're the gem of the Union. Some people don't respect that, but I do. I know why they put the National Civil War Museum up on the hill. I know that the Smithsonian, it's a smart institute. Why are we fighting what our national interest is? You look at our national interest, and then you follow accordingly. And right now, it's about infrastructure, and it's about creating jobs, and it's about looking at our heritage and preserving our heritage. And that's what's key.
A question: would you consider yourself a Trump supporter?
I'm a president supporter. Whoever's president of the United States, it's my job for my platform as mayor to fit the platform for. Sometimes you gotta please the king. Sometimes you have, for your city to get what it needs. Sometimes you have to please the king. And if my king says infrastructure is his calling card, guess what? And my infrastructure is my calling card, I'm gonna be there. And I'm gonna deliver my plan, and we're gonna see the likenesses. And we're gonna make people who are disbelievers of the king believers in the king's plan. But he can't do it by himself. It has to be done at the ground level also, and at each level. It's not about a Trump supporter. I'm a president supporter. I'm an American, and I can't just have a perspective of my own. It has to be a perspective of the collective, and the collective is with infrastructure, and it's jobs, and it's making sure that the American citizen is thought about first.
Cool. Louis Butts, thanks for coming in.
Hey, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Anytime, guys. I love this place. I do love.
You're right at home.
You're right at home.
Yeah, thank you.
Look,
Thank you.
Look, I don't know what happens.
I think we're.
I don't know what.
Hang on. Oops.